Hello guys, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about the NHL playoff format and why, in my opinion, I think it should not change. Now, the NHL playoff format debate is heating up once again, and a lot of people want the NHL format changed. So why do I want the format to stay as it is? Watch till the end to find out. Now, the current NHL playoff format has been a big topic of debate surrounding the NHL for the past few years since it was implemented into the NHL 5 years ago. Before that, the NHL used the 1-8 system in which the 1 seed team will play the 8 seed team, the 7 seed team will play the 2nd seed team, and so on and so forth. But before that, it was that way for a long time. With the new, technically, NHL playoff format, it's been a big, huge debate, and a lot of people are totally against it. And with the new-ish NHL playoff system, you would have 3 teams in each division making the playoffs, and then in each conference you'd have 2 wildcards. The first team in each conference would face the wildcard 2 team, and the division leader in the other division would face the wildcard 1 team, and then the second and third place teams in each division would face each other, and that's how it's been since pretty much 2013, I do believe. I think that was the first year. I think after the lockout it was implemented, but since then it's been pretty successful in my opinion. There's been a lot of underdogs coming through. There's been a lot of successful and very entertaining playoff runs, and in my opinion, there should be no reason why it should change. Now, a big reason why people are complaining, especially this season, is how the Atlantic Division has formed this season. Now, you've got the Tampa Bay Lightning as the number 1 team, the Boston Bruins as the number 2 team, and the Toronto Maple Leafs as the number 3 team. And the Toronto Maple Leafs will not be able to get home ice advantage because the Boston Bruins will likely secure that 2nd spot in the division, which means that Toronto will likely face Boston in the first round. And that is unfair to the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've had a pretty solid season, but sometimes divisions are going to be as strong as they are. The Atlantic Division is nuts this season compared to years past, and that's just going to happen sometimes. With the current playoff format, you can't really escape that. Some divisions are going to be better than others, and it does kind of defeat the teams that are in that 3rd and 2nd position. I do get that, but that is part of the program, that is part of the format, and the format that I do honestly like. And yes, while it might be unfair for the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs, those playoff matches are so much fun to watch. Last year, it was exhilarating to see them try and battle with the Boston Bruins, and while the Maple Leafs, I was cheering for them, they ultimately did not get the win in that series. It was still very entertaining, and one of the best playoff rounds in that entire year, and it'll likely be the same this year, as the Boston Bruins will likely play the Toronto Maple Leafs again, and it'll be a big, heated battle. The rivalry will continue between the 2 teams, and yes, while it might be unfair for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't really care. Even if it might be in the first round, I love to see those playoff matches. And another argument that people have is that the Toronto Maple Leafs are too good of a team to be facing the Boston Bruins in the first round. And I think that excuse is very bad, because with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the last couple of years, they faced Washington in the first round a couple of years ago, they faced Boston last year. They could have beat the Boston Bruins last year. I think they had a pretty solid chance to. It wasn't because of the playoff format that they lost in the first round the last couple of years. It's because they were not prepared for the playoffs. They were not prepared to face a team like the Boston Bruins, and that is the Toronto Maple Leafs' fault, not the NHL's fault for putting this playoff format together. I don't want to see any crying after Maple Leafs likely lose in the first round after this year, because they are not going to win versus Boston. I just do not see that happening, and it's not a fault of the NHL for that playoff system. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they right now are not looking prepared for the Boston Bruins once again. But I don't want to see the blame thrown at the NHL for the Maple Leafs not even showing up. And some other people might say, oh, they would have faced the Boston Bruins in the 2nd round instead of the 1st round. Maybe they would have gotten past the 2nd round in that year if they had the 1-8 system. And yes, that is true, but I don't think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win in 2nd round versus Boston anyways. I thought they were going to lose if that system was implemented, and I just don't think it would have mattered too much. With the Maple Leafs, they've likely been the team that has been bitten in the butt most because of this playoff system, but they're going to have to face teams like the Boston Bruins anyways, face teams like the Tampa Bay Lightning. If they want to win a Stanley Cup, you gotta actually beat those teams first. And I don't care if it's the 1st round, 2nd round, or 3rd round, you gotta beat teams like Boston if you want to win the Stanley Cup. And the Maple Leafs are making excuses for that kind of stuff, saying the playoff format is broken, saying all this different stuff when they can't even beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. And yes, while the Maple Leafs do have a pretty solid point record, I'm not exactly that they deserve home ice advantage after the way they played, especially in the last couple of weeks. I've not been impressed with them defensively, goaltending-wise. Not a lot has impressed me with the Maple Leafs lately, and the Maple Leafs, I don't think, really deserve that home ice advantage. They've had some great opportunities to pass the Boston Bruins in points. With teams like Ottawa, they've lost 2 times versus the Ottawa Senators this season. That is totally unacceptable for a team that should be pretty much contending for a Stanley Cup right now. If they want to get home ice advantage, they got to actually fight for it. They got to actually win some more games. And the Maple Leafs right now are just not doing that. Now, the NBA right now has the 1-8 system, and a lot of people are acting like the NBA has this flawless playoff system that has worked so well over the last few years, and to me, I just don't get it whatsoever. Why would you want to go to the playoff system that the NBA uses right now? To me, personally, it's fine if you like the NBA, that's all fine. But I could not stand the NHL and the NBA playoffs. It is so boring, so predictable, to a point where I just cannot stand it. I can't even watch basketball anymore because of how predictable it might be. And that's the 1-8 system. That's what the NBA is using right now. And I do not want to see the NHL go down this road of predictability, just boringness, and if it did go down that route, I would ultimately love the NHL a lot less. And the NBA is a prime example of what the NHL should not be doing. While the NBA is pretty successful right now, I just do not like what the NBA is doing when it comes to just parity, when it comes to predictability. The NHL is almost completely opposite in that, to where you can't predict the NHL playoffs. That's why it's so exciting to watch them every single year. Again, underdogs can't survive in the NBA. The NBA prioritizes winning championships constantly, having these super teams that win 5 straight championships. It's not fun. It's not fun to watch, and to me, it's so boring almost every single year. And it's been that way for a long time. But with the NHL, it's a lot more entertaining. Teams from everywhere have a chance to be able to get far into the playoffs. Just look at Nashville in the 2017 run, how far they were able to go because they got that underdog advantage and because the NHL didn't just shun them completely. With the NHL's current playoff system, the underdogs actually have a chance to fight for their lives and actually get far into the playoffs. Again, that Nashville run was one of the most entertaining times I've seen watching any team in NHL's history. I can't say the same about the NBA, who has had none of those stories recently. The Warriors have won everything lately, and it just doesn't add up to any excitement. With the NHL, it's completely different. We have teams that you wouldn't expect winning go to the first round, second round, even in the third round, and again, in Nashville's case, the Stanley Cup final. It's a lot more entertaining, it's a lot more unpredictable, and right now the NHL playoff system I think is perfect towards that. The NHL playoff format gears towards that type of excitement, gears towards the unpredictability, and to me that is my favorite part about almost the entire NHL, is the fact that I simply cannot predict it. Now let's say the NHL went to the 1-8 system today. They ended up implementing it for the playoffs this year. The Tampa Bay Lightning would almost have an automatic road to the NHL or to the Stanley Cup final. And while they would obviously still face some tough opponents in the Eastern Conference and in the second round, I still think they would have a much easier time being able to get to that Stanley Cup final and actually win it. And the Tampa Bay Lightning are my second favorite team. I would love to see them win the Stanley Cup, but I don't want to have it come to the cost of predictability, to boringness, because the Tampa Bay Lightning winning this cup this year, if they had the 1-8 system, I think it would be almost automatic. But with the system right now, they have a little bit of a less chance to win it, and that's what makes it so fun. The Stanley Cup is the hardest championship to win in the 4 major sports, and I want it to continue to be that way. I don't want to have these teams that are first place win the President's Trophy and win it every year, because that's not fun. While the President's Trophy is fun to get, usually the team that gets it doesn't end up winning the Stanley Cup, and that's what's so great about the Stanley Cup Finals and what makes the 1-8 system so flawed. And I'll give the Washington Capitals as a pretty good example of what this playoff format can also do to help a team and also disarm a team. And with the Washington Capitals, they were winning President's Trophies after President's Trophies, and they were always pegged to win the Stanley Cup. And of course, the year they don't get the President's Trophy, they end up winning the Stanley Cup. And because of the playoff format, it kind of helped them in a way, but also kind of hurt them in a way. With the years that they were pegged to win the Stanley Cup, they would face Pittsburgh in the second round, and it would all be over. That's what happens with the playoff format sometimes. Some teams that deserve to win may not win the Stanley Cup, and that's the amazing part. Just seeing the Washington Capitals fans, their faces when the Washington Capitals won the Cup. It took a long time, but it finally happened, and while the playoff format was a little bit flawed in that way, the Washington Capitals weren't able to win the Stanley Cup every year just because they were favorites, and I feel like if it were to be that 1-8 system, that would happen almost every single time. And obviously, right now the Tampa Bay Lightning are the pegs favorites for the Stanley Cup, and I feel like with this playoff format right now, the chances of them actually winning the Stanley Cup are still pretty low because of the playoff format, and I think that is the best part about the whole thing. And again, I want to see what's best for the NHL. I want to see what's best for the NHL playoffs. I want to see excitement. I want to see unpredictability. I want to see parity. And I feel like with the current NHL playoff format, it gears towards that. It gears towards an unpredictability. At the 1-8 system, while yes, would give some teams that are better some fair advantages, it would ultimately create a playoffs where it's more bland, more boring, and a lot more predictable. And that is what is exactly the opposite of what I want. I just think the way the NHL playoff system right now fits perfectly towards excitement, fits perfectly towards unpredictability, and I feel like changing the system to this 1-to-8 system would decrease popularity, would decrease excitement, it would decrease unpredictability, and I want the NHL playoffs to stay as great as they are right now, and changing the system, I think, jeopardizes all of that. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about the NHL's current playoff format? Are you for it? Are you against it? And of course, let me know, do you think it should change to the 1-to-8 system, or do you think it should stay as it is? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about the NHL playoff race and which teams I think will make it. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the NHL playoff system and if it should change or if it should stay. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.